So I want to take it back before all of your accomplishments and insurance, even your background in the entertainment industry, which I want to touch on as well. I want to go all the way back to, let's say, a 9-year-old Rory Douglas. What was yes, all the way back. What was your dream job?
Well, it wasn't that, listen, it wasn't that good. And it wasn't that good, but guess what? I love to talk about it because I really want to make sure that whenever I speak to someone about the business or being an entrepreneur, I really want to be transparent and be real about it. You follow what I mean? And I'll tell you this, that when I was in school, I was most likely not to succeed. Most likely. I got kicked out of every elementary school, every junior high school, and every high school. I got kicked out. I was labeled a troubled youth in the South Side of Chicago, a troubled youth. I had a big family, 6 brothers and 1 sister. My mom worked 3 jobs. My father passed at a young age, worked 3 jobs to take care of us. So when I was going to school, I was a very, very bright student because I could listen to the teacher, Rod, and articulate everything the teacher said. However, when it came down to open book or tests, I couldn't read things correctly. I didn't know what was going on in my life. I would read things, but I would read them backwards for some reason. And it wasn't until I was about 13 years old and my mom and myself was driving down the road in the car and my mother was trying to get someplace and she insisted I read the instructions. And I did the same thing I used to do in class. Whenever the teacher would want to do open book or something, I would create a commotion or a diversion, throw a chair or push someone to get kicked out. I couldn't do it in the car with my mother. So my mother insists, you know how mothers are, when they tell you better do something, you better do it. So I tried to read it, but I couldn't read it. So she knew something was wrong. So my mom took me back to the school and talked to the counselors and told them what was going on. You know, my son has some kind of problem. He's reading wrong. He's reading things. And they diagnosed me with dyslexia. They said I had dyslexia, which means it's a reading condition where you read things backwards in your memory. So I received training for my so-called disability, and I overcame my disability. I always tell people today, you can have a disability, but you don't have to be disabled. And I see today people who have disabilities do more than people who don't. So I overcame my disability, went back to school, got straight A's, and college was very boring for me. So I've been working pretty much as a young kid ever since I was 16 years old till I can remember, working all types of jobs, whether it was sweeping the floor, roofing, washing windows, sweeping, going from that to lower management, upper management, and going all the way up to regional manager. So I've been through a lot of emotions in terms of from the bottom to the top. I always tell people I went from the streets to corporate suites. That's what I tell people. I went from the street to corporate suite. So my beginning wasn't that rosy, but I'm glad that I went through what I went through because it actually made me the person that I am today, because I can pretty much feel the pain that people feel in despair. And at the same token, I can relate to those individuals who are, whether it's the boardroom or on the street, I can relate to both. And I take that and use it as my superpower. So I use my disability as my superpower. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and you're an example for those who think that they might be limited, by their background, where they come from, how they were raised, they didn't have access to this. And look, there's a saying that one of my old mentors used to say, look, you can make excuses or you can make it happen, but you can't do both at the same time, and you made it happen. You found a way, and it sounds like, with the support, of your mother, making sure that, hey, look, I know how moms can be. I know how my mom is. Look, we're gonna find a way to make this work, right?
Yeah.
And rise above. What did you feel like were your options back then? Like, not now, because obviously, anybody who watches this video, you can look at his backdrop, which is not his backdrop, his house. You'll know it turned out okay. It turned out all right. But when you were a young man and you were having these difficulties, what did you think your options were?
It's really funny that you said that, because back then I sort of loved the space that I was in. Let me tell you the reason why. What I see today is that more people spend more time outside of themselves and very little time with themselves. Whenever you have a disability, you spend time with yourself and you know your limitations because you're constantly rehearsing everything. See, you know, the common person could pick up a book and just read it. I couldn't read it, so I had to listen to someone read it so I can articulate it. So I became my best actor. I was playing the best role. Does that make sense? Yes. So people today spend more time outside of themselves, very little time with themselves. And I think that's the secret. You got to spend more time with yourself. I always tell people your job, Rob, is what you get paid for. But your calling is what you are made for. What I mean by your calling, the thing that you was called to do, the gift that's inside of you. Everybody have greatness inside of them. Whatever that gift may be, that's what you are called to do. So by me spending time with myself, it gave me a lot of time to get to know myself. Today, what's happening in the marketplace or in society today, people are going to school because based off what their parents want them to be or to do. It's a lot of peer pressure out there. Very little people are making decisions themselves. And how do I know that? The average college student changed their major at least 4 times. And every time you change your major, that's just more money.
That's it.
But the bottom line is I really, really urge people today, spend time with yourself. Get to know who you are. That's what it's all about. So for me, it was a good thing because I had a chance to really see who I am and whose I am and what I could actually do, even though I had a disability.
So really you gave yourself, you know, the time and freedom, like to learn yourself, like to really get to know who you were well and find what was going to be the best road and path for you to move on.
Exactly. Because when you have a disability, you got to learn how to live with it. It's like, imagine a person being blind. Right. Well, if you see every day, you don't know what it is like to be blind. But when you're blind, you got to keep in mind, you got to feel your way around. You got to learn how to maneuver and do certain different things. And that's why I'm telling you that whenever you're suffering from something, if you have the strength and the courage to actually challenge it and work through it, you'll come out better and not bitter.
Yeah, you have the best thing. I mean, there's so many quotes that we're gonna be able to pull from this interview. It's gonna be amazing. You know, Ryan, who was my assistant that was kind of sending the emails, he's gonna have an incredible time, you know, just creating these clips because he's just gonna love all of these anecdotes, and everybody who's listening is going to just get so much value out of it. So let's talk about your growth and career progression, and ultimately how you ended up in the financial services space, because you have a background in the entertainment industry that is also very impressive, and you had a lot of success there as well. So take me from the time, I guess, starting at that 16, 17-year-old kind of, you know, up and through college. How'd you get into the entertainment industry, and then how'd you end up transitioning into the financial services industry?
Yeah, right. You know, being in a Black household as a kid, my mom and my dad, man, they were starch Motown. I mean, I heard Marvin Gaye, I heard all Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder. That was the base, which means Michael Jackson. So I've always loved music. I love music, you know, and as a kid, music was pretty much something that I just loved. And as I worked all of those jobs in corporate America, one of my best friends, his name is Melvin Johnson, and he was basically in the music industry. And I was somewhat like a mentor to him. He came to me all the time for advice, and he used to tell me, he said, man, listen, you'll be good in the music industry. You should get in the music industry. Well, I didn't know anything about the music industry, but I love music. But Mel would always tell me, you'll be good in the industry for management. You need to manage people, right? And, you know, I basically just pretty much followed a lot of things that he was doing along that time. I would pretty much see what he's doing and everything. And I saw that he was really progressing. You know, this guy was really growing, became a music manager, started managing people. And he told me one day, he said, hey, and I'm sure you remember MCA Records. Mm-hmm. He said, hey, listen, man, I have an opportunity for you to come on a partial tour with us. I can't pay you that much, but I can pay you a little, but you can go on the tour and you can see if you like it or not. And if you like it, then it may be something that we can make happen for you here, right? And I said, you know what? I told him, I said, man, yeah, I would love to do that. But when I told him I would love to do it, first thing was in the back of my mind, I'm working the job and I have a kid. And I'm like, if I go on this tour, what about my job? So I went to my boss at that time and told my boss and made up some story and said I wanted to do something, a vacation. I can't remember what I told the boss.
Now, what industry were you working in? What industry were you working in at the time?
I was working in the retail industry as a manager.
Okay. Oh, you can't, no days off. No days off
As a manager. And the tour was coming around right after the summer. So it was crazy, right? It's like peak time. And I told my boss, I came up with an excuse because I was a great manager. I said, hey, can I take a couple of weeks off? And my boss said, no, we can't give you a couple of weeks off. We can't do that. I can give you a few days. I can stretch a week. That's the most I can stretch. So I'm like, man, I had to make a decision. And the decision was whether or not if I was going to take that opportunity. I apologize for that. Whether I was going to take that opportunity or not. And I basically went on the tour. And when I went on the tour, I got on the tour, man, and I started to see what they were doing. And I was just really, really just helping. And I learned something about helping. It's power and service. I always tell people today, don't get involved with things based on the money. Get involved with things based on the potential opportunity. So when I was on that tour, man, everybody that wanted me to do something, I did it. And then I had pretty much gathered a name for myself in that short period of time. They would call me Big Man, the go-to guy. Go to Big Man, he can get it done. He can get it done. He can get it done. And I met a lot of people along the way on that tour. And to make a long story short, I never went back to the job because when I was on the tour, one of the main guys, I can't say his name, but everybody would know his name. He told my good friend Melvin, he said, listen, I want that kid to be on this tour. So it ended up turning into a couple of week assignment to the full-fledged tour.
Wow. And
being on that tour, I met a lot of people. And when I got off the tour, I met a lot of people and I had the opportunity to be Bobby Brown's road manager. And I had the opportunity to work with Dave Hollister as his manager. So I learned a lot, talked to a lot of people, and then I became a music manager. And one of the guys who were on the tour, which was an attorney, his name is Joseph Gelman, he also saw something in me and he told me, he said, hey, have you ever thought about starting your own music business, your own management company? Because he seen that my friend Mel was a music manager. Have you thought about it? I said, Joseph, listen, I never thought about starting my own company. I'm really working on becoming a music manager. He said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, if you really want to do it, I'll show you how to do it. And that's how my music company was born, because it started with RKD Music Management. It was with my law partner, his name was Joseph Gelman, and myself, and it was in Beverly Hills. So by me going from the streets to Beverly Hills with a music management company, it brought a lot of attention to what I was doing. We did some amazing things, and I was in the music industry for a long time, about 25 years. And you know, because you're part of the industry, you know how it goes. We went from CDs to downloads. Yes. So the profit margin just changed. Went from CDs to downloads. Yes. But I was in the R&B era. Yes. And I transitioned from the R&B era and went to the gospel era. And in the gospel era, they wasn't burning CDs at all. So that was one part. They wasn't burning the CDs, but things started to change with downloads. So we made a decision, Joseph and myself, to sell the music company to a known music company, music label. And we sold it for an undisclosed amount. To this very day, I still get royalties. But the bottom line is that was a great opportunity for me. And once I got out of the music industry, I took a couple of years off and I was traveling and doing a lot of nice stuff. And I had to make a decision what business I was going to get into. First, I contemplated real estate. Thought about that. Also thought about film finance. Although I did start dipping in film finance a little, I was involved with a lot of projects. This Christmas with Chris Brown, I was involved with that project. Also, I did some gospel projects, independent gospel soundtracks. So I did a lot of that, you know, made a little money, but it really wasn't the passion. My passion was really music, but my passion was really helping people. So I'm wondering, am I going to get involved with real estate? I looked at that and I said, okay, everybody's doing real estate. That just seems so boring to me. And one day, my realtor, when I'm looking for some property, my realtor recruited me. My realtor told me, she said, because I was talking to her and I was letting her know business that I was in the past. And she started asking me, well, how much do you know about money? I said, well, to be honest, Lori, I don't know too much about money. I know about business, but not too much about money. She said, well, wait a minute. You know what? You may want to get involved with what I'm involved in. I said, you're involved with real estate? No, this is not all that I do. I'm also involved with the financial service industry. And she said, this is what we do for people. We help people, we show people, we do this, we do this. And it really touched my heart, because I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Because when I was in the music business, I made millions of dollars. And I also lost millions of dollars. And it really, really bothered me, because I made a lot of money in the year. And at the end of the year, when it was time to start cutting checks and what my profit was, my business partner would say, hey, there's your check. And I was like, wait a minute. Hey, remember that tour we went on? Remember those clothes? Remember that video shoot? Remember that studio? All these things, man. And I said to myself, just like when I had my disability, I said, I will never allow myself to get in a position like this again, to be able to make so much and lose so much. So I made so much, lost so much, and then had to try to regain part of it back. So I said to myself, Rod, I said, I'm never going to put myself in a position like this again. I became an advocate reader. I took every book on finance I could find, man. And I would read those books on finance, read the books, read books. I mean, I had so many books I would read. And I was just self-taught, learning about finance. That's because I was resorting back to what I did in the very beginning, when I was spending time with myself and my disability. I just started to apply myself. And by doing that, I found out that I had a lot of passion toward it. I had passion toward finance. And once I had that passion toward finance, I was invited to they call it a BPM. I was invited to a meeting. Okay. And I went to this firm and went to the meeting and heard what they were talking about. And I'm sitting up there, man, just listening and looking. And then they start talking about the compensation. My eyes start to open. Right. You guys get paid this much money just to do that? Right. Are you serious? I couldn't believe it when I saw the compensation. So I was like, hey, I signed up right away. Once I saw the compensation. In other words, I like what they were talking about learning, but when I saw the compensation, the structure, I said, hey, man, I got to get involved with this. Yeah. And unbeknownst to me, you know, it's the most underserved industry, like you said, the insurance industry. There's more millionaires created in this business than anywhere else. And I saw it. And not only did I see it, I learned to love it. And to this very day, I would do it for free. I love what I do. I love what I do. So that's how the transition from the music industry went to the financial service industry. But it was a lot of gray areas in between, making a decision what direction I was going to go in. But like I said, ever since I've been in the financial industry for several years, every day I wake up, I'm still waking up with a lot of energy. And I still believe to this day that 90% of winning is simply excitement. I stay excited. I love what I do. And I love the fact that right now is so much opportunity for those individuals who are coming up. But most people, they don't take this route because, once again, it's financial education, it's financial literacy. So I call myself a change agent to give people information to pursue their purpose in areas of financial education.